Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today we have a new mystery box from my sweet friend Christina Elizabeth. So we're going to open this and see what's inside. But first, I will tell you that this month's theme that was thought up by the amazing Whitney over at Whiskey and Wit, she really put us through the ringer again. I don't know, it seems like each month it's getting a little bit harder and harder to do these mystery box challenges because they are really turning into challenges. So this month the theme is Hello Sunshine because we're coming into the summer months. So there's a twist that, I don't know, almost just took me all the way down. But, and you've probably heard this on all the rest of the videos, but we're going to find items that fit the word prompt for each category. So the first item number 1, it has to do with sun or SPF. I hope Christina didn't just send me some sunblock. Item number 2 is citrus. Number 3 is ice cream. Number 4 is vacation. 5 is barbecue, campfire, barbecue/campfire, so something having to do with that. 6 is popsicle, which popsicle and ice cream kind of got me a little messed up. But anyway, item number 7 is baseball. Number 8 is beach. And then for the challenge items, which will be wrapped inside so that they're a little bit separate. And yes, these are extremely challenging challenge items. Item 9 is sunglasses, and number 10 is outdoor toy or game. Now, the twist in all of this, and this is what really rocked my world because I didn't know how to do this, was that no box items, anything in here, cannot be from Dollar Tree. Oh dear. Well, that was a challenge in itself, even without all of the sunshine items. Anyway, I'm going to see what Christina put in mine. And if this is your first time joining us for a mystery box challenge, so every month Courtney over at Creative on the Cheap does this challenge, and there'll be some creators here on YouTube that you may or may not be familiar with, and we'll each send each other a box of 10 items. So we don't know what's inside the box that's coming to us, but we're gonna send a box to somebody else. And so it goes in a big circle, and ultimately once you do the whole playlist, you'll come back to the very first person where you started. So this month I sent my box to Lisa over at the Dollar Mom, and then, like I said, Christina Elizabeth sent me this box, which we're getting ready to open right now. Okay, so without further ado, let's see what we've got. I don't know how she fit everything into this box. So I see the challenge items right at the top. All right, and I'm looking for the card. Oh, sweet. Wendy, happy mystery box challenge. I was so excited when I saw the theme for this round. I'm glad she was excited because I didn't have the same feeling, Christina. It's going to be a good one. Hopefully you like the items I sent. I know whatever you create will be amazing. Happy crafting, your friend Christina. And she made a little card. Isn't that cute? Super cute. Okay, so, oh dear. All right, so this is the beach item. This is really cute, actually. Okay. Oh, and so it looks like she went to the dollar spot. Or, you know, at Target. I think that's what that is. It says $3. So, yeah, I think that's what this is from. So this is super cute. We got some little sun toys and a little froggy in here. I think he hooks up to some water source. Oh, or something. I don't know. Oh, he's a little teapot. Anyway, and I might be able to use this mesh too, so that'll be fun. Okay, barbecue campfire, and we have a couple of forks here, or s'mores sticks. Oh gosh, okay, that's not that bad, I don't think. I don't know. I have learned not to even judge it as soon as it comes out. Sun SPF. Oh, my Lanta. Okay. Well, this is super cute. It's got sun, and it is protection from the sun rays. That would be the SPF. All right, I think I might just wear some of these things. That's pretty cute. Maybe I should open this one now so I can add it too. Oh dear. Okay, let's see what else. Ooh, this is cute. Citrus. Oh, that was a great idea. Some sweet lemons and some blue and white. Oh, I like that a lot. That kind of mixes nautical and citrus. Okay, I love that. I can definitely do something with that. That's a good one. All right, vacation. Oh, that was such a smart idea. I can't even remember what I sent to Lisa, and I hope she's still friends with me afterwards. But these are little luggage tags. Okay, that's cute, and that'll be fun. Oh, cute. Well, that's cute too. This is from, it looks like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, which I forget which tag. Oh, Hobby Lobby. A little baseball plaque. So, and baseball is, you know, a summer thing. Go Dodgers. Okay, popsicle. All right, we got a little watermelon popsicle mold thingy. That's kind of where I went with that too. Oh, ice cream. That's cute. I wish I would have found something like that for Lisa. Super cute. Werther's Originals, and I have a feeling that that is for this senior citizen. Thank you, Christina. Oh, I need that now. Oh, is that all of them? Oh, wait. Oh, ooh. And a Milky Way. Okay, so we can do some sweet toothing while I'm crafting. Okay, that should be it. Yeah. So challenge item number 1, sunglasses. Well, we know these are going to be sunglasses. Oh, these are cute. Hang on, you guys. Watch. I love these. I just might have to use these as is. Very nice. Okay. So, dang, I was trying to think of what I was going to do with just regular sunglasses. This may change things up a bit, but these are cute. Okay. And then finally, our outdoor game, challenge item number 2, outdoor game. She was trying to be super sweet with me and got me these little splash balls. You know, where you get them wet and then they get all heavy, and I think you can play with them in the pool. I just really need all of these things for what they were intended. Anyway, okay, so we will figure out what we're going to do with all of these fun items. I do know what I'm going to do with these 2, which is the only thing I have so far. All right, so now without further ado, let's get started. For our first project, we're going to be starting with these little mushy balls, and I'm going to also be using the ice cream stickers that Christina sent me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some fabric that I had on hand, and this is a really pretty yellow and white gingham fabric that my aunt used on some curtains that she had. We threw away the cornice box, and we actually saved some of the scrap wood from it. You'll see that come up a little bit later too, unintentionally, but it just happened that it's going to be in this video as well. But I'm going to take my big long needle and I cut down some strips of this fabric, and then I'm going to feed that onto the needle and zigzag it, you know, go in and out so that I can pull that onto the thread, and that's going to make a sweet little pleated piece of trim. And then I'm going to take some more of that fabric and wrap it around my ball. And then at the bottom, to keep it all together, I'm going to use a rubber band and then cut off that excess. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other 3 balls, and I'm using some scrap fabric and other things that I had in my stash. One is from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to go through that whole routine with all 4 of those pretty colors that I'm trying to coordinate with the little stickers that Christina sent me. So once I get all of my balls covered, I'm going to take that little trim, the pleated trim, and I'm going to take it to the bottom portion of my ball. We're making little ice cream scoops. So I started by using a needle and thread to attach this onto the round part, but I found that it was a little bit easier to just use hot glue. And so once I get it into the place where I want it, I can adjust my pleats and get them spread out evenly, and then just took my hot glue. I'll pull down a little flap of that trim and then just add some hot glue until I get it all the way around and it's snug as a bug in a rug. So now I'm going to take two Dollar Tree little clay pots, and these are the really small ones. And then I'm using my acrylic marker in white, and I'll have these linked in the description box below. But I'm just going to start doing some diagonal lines in one direction. And because my pot, you know, it's concave or whatever that would be called, you know, and it's smaller at the bottom and larger at the top, my stripes are not going to be perfectly equal. So you're just going to wing it and go around, and then once you get all the way around, you'll go the other way in the opposite direction. And then it makes it look like a little waffle cone. And then I did a line around the lip, and at the top, I had to take some inspiration from the little sticker sheet, and I just made big X's at the top. So those little diamonds are bigger than the ones at the bottom. So now my trim was a little bit in the way, so when I was going to put it into my pot, I didn't want it to get mushed up in the glue. It wasn't very easy, but I just used some clips to hold them away. And then I'm going to pop that inside of my little pot, and then, now it's my cone, and then pull those clips off. And then I'm going to attach a second scoop right on top of that with a bunch of glue. And it's pretty cute just by itself, a single scoop or a double scoop. You could even do a triple scoop. I think that would be really, really cute. But I made the patterns of the fabric kind of alternate and see which way it looked the cutest. So I have the gingham ones at the top and the bottom, and then I had the stripes and the polka dot. You know, I just alternated it until I got it to where it was pretty to my eyes. And I'm trying to coordinate with the colors of the stickers, so you'll see why in a minute. And then I took a Dollar Tree little cherry, these little berries that I think I get them during the Christmas season. I can't even remember, but I always keep these on hand. And I'm just going to pull that wire out and then glue that to the top. And you know, I always have afterthoughts later on, especially when I'm doing my voiceover here, but I should have taken a little piece of white lace or white trim lace and made a little circle around my berry, because then that would have looked like whipped cream, huh? So if you do this, put that on there. Do as I say, not as I do. So you can see here, I was pulling my color inspiration from these stickers that I think are so pretty. But also, if you're like our family, we have quite a few parties through the year. And we had a carnival party for our daughter's 25th birthday. This is our youngest daughter. And this was her idea, what she wanted to do. And so I just helped her run with that. But I'm going to be using some things from this party. I'm going to use those bottles in another DIY coming up. But I don't know if I showed you guys these pictures before, but I just think this was such a sweet and cute party. But I want you to notice the banner at the top over there. I had a whole bunch of this left over, and we ordered this from Amazon. And I mean, it is so long, it could go the whole length of our backyard. But I thought this was the perfect color combination to use for these stickers. I knew I wanted to make a banner with them, but these just happened to be in my stash. And I always keep these things, leftover decorations, for another party, or if I want to do a DIY using this. And so this is the perfect example. So I'm going to cut my little stickers apart. They're on a little, you know, backing sheet so that they're not sticky yet, and I can place them. And I want to make sure that I put the right color ice cream onto the right color banner. And so it's, you know, spread out evenly and makes my eyes very happy. So I decided which ones I wanted to put on there. And then I took these Dollar Tree letters, and I'm going to write out, I'm not going to write out, I'm going to stick out summer. Now, I thought it was pretty cute, just like this with the stickers. If you wanted to stop here, the black with, I think it really stands out and is pretty. But what I was going to use them for was as a template, because I had an idea of how to put the letters on in a different way. So I'm going to again take my acrylic white marker and I'm going to go around each of those letters, and then I'll go back in and fill them in. But that's just going to be the backstop. Again, you could stop here and just leave it with the white letters, but I'm going to go a step further. So again, you could just stop right there with the white paint and use those for the letters, but I decided to take some white yarn and I'm just going to do some up and down lines or stitches all the way on all of the letters and just go back and forth, going up and down, you know, just so that the lines of the yarn are going straight up and down. And that makes it a little bit easier. At first I tried stitching it, you know, around the letters and it didn't look very good. So I thought this was the best way to do it. I started with a plastic needle, but then I moved to the skinnier kind because it was easier to get into those holes of the burlap. But I think it looks so pretty and so summery. This would be pretty for fall or winter too. But anyway, and then the back is not going to be so pretty, but we don't care about that. And then I'll place my ice cream stickers right under each letter. And here it is all finished, and I love how this turned out, and I think this would be so stinking cute for a summer party or birthday party or whatever, even just for your regular summer decor if you decorate for the summer season. I staged it here with Michael J's grandmother's butter churner or something churner. It's like the olden days kind of mixer, but I think it's so pretty and it's so special. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So now I'm going to be using the sand toys that Christina sent, and I love the colors of this plastic. And normally, you guys know I don't like to use plastic, or I don't want anyone to know it's plastic, because as my aunt used to say, plastic is like undergarments, necessary but should never be seen. So I'm going to take a bunch of coordinating ribbons, and I'm going to be using those ring toss bottles that we used in my daughter's circus party. And you can see we spray painted them in different colors. I'm going to repaint the gold one, but I left the others the same, and they're a little chipped and worn from the game playing, but I thought this was a great way to recycle these. So now I'm going to cut all of my ribbon into strips, and you can see the green one. It was the same size. I think that's 2 inches of the brown one, but I wanted one just in between those two sizes, the 2-inch and the 5/8 inch. So I cut that green one down the middle. So once I get them all cut, I'm going to dovetail the ends because it's a lot easier to do before you fold it all up. And then I'm going to fold them in thirds and make little bows. And because that brown one was so large, I am going to put little snips right in the middle once I fold them over. You'll see what I'm doing here. And then I'll gather them all up and wrap them with a chenille stem and foof out my loops and make a really pretty perky bow. And I'm going to make 4 of those, 1 for each bottle. And here's where I decided that I didn't like the gold with my pretty perky bows. They were too bright and airy, and the gold just kind of pulled it down. But if you wanted to add some gold to the bow, the gold would be really pretty. So whatever floats your boat, but I just decided to take some of my chalk paint in Tuscan Sun and lightened it up with some white, and then painted my bottle. So now I'm going to take one of the sand toys, each of the sand toys, there's 4 of them, and I'm going to take the excess chenille stem on the back of my perky bow and attach my little toy, and then I'm going to attach that to each of my bottles. So once I got my sand toys and bows in the angle that I wanted, I'm going to take a black paint pen and I'm going to write the letters PLAY for play. And I thought this was so cute. Now, once I got it done, this was giving me baby shower vibes. So you could, I mean, if you had a baby shower coming up, or if somebody might be expecting, I think this would be a really cute centerpiece for a baby shower. And then I went and took my little luggage tags. I didn't plan to use that for this, but I think these colors are just so adorable and it worked perfectly. I'm going to write Beach Baby on my tags and attach that to my last bottle, the Y bottle. And it's just so adorable. But if you do have a baby shower, and gosh, I wish we could have a baby shower. I don't know, maybe we'll have a baby shower soon. And here's how this one turned out, and I am in love with this. These are so my colors. I just love all of the pretty pastels, and I think it's adorable. I don't know, if this was for a baby shower, is it appropriate because they're on wine bottles? I don't know, but I think it's adorable. I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. Now I'm going to be using the mesh bag from the Sand Toys, and I kind of already knew what I was going to do as soon as I pulled this out of the box. I'm going to take one of Dollar Tree's tall vases and then some nautical rope. I'm also going to be using some sand from the Dollar Tree, and I ended up using about a bag and a half, and then some of their little shells. I actually also have my own collection. This actually came from Yami over at the Latina next door, who we did a mystery box a long time ago, and I still have these, and then also a solar light from the Dollar Tree. So the first thing I'm going to do is cover my vase, and this is a little bit trickier than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to pull it over to one side so that I have a seam on that side, and then I'm going to glue around the bottom and try to keep that nice. And then once I get it all adhered down at the bottom, I'm going to go up the side and cut that away and then close it up so that my seam is going to be directly opposite of the seam that I pushed it against. You see what I'm saying? So there'll be a seam on both sides. Now, it would have worked a lot better if I had a separate set of hands, because I couldn't hang on to it and it was rolling around. I really should have taken my time on this, but you'll see it was kind of a happy accident, or not even an accident, but I was able to cover that all up with the nautical rope. And then I'm going to add my sand and my shells. So then I took my solar light and I'm going to remove the label and then just pop that right in the middle of my shells into the sand, and then I'll finish up with the nautical rope at the bottom and then on those sides where I'm going to be covering up those seams. And then I also left some at the top for a sweet little handle, and it was done. And here it is all finished, and I think this turned out so pretty. I'll show it to you at night also, but I think this is a perfect way to light some areas in your backyard or on your patio table, or if you're going camping and you like to decorate your tables out in the camping areas. I love how this turned out. And I get a lot of questions about my Jesus picture. I'll have the company where it came from linked in the description box below. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. Next, we're going to be using our little plastic froggy and our sun visor. And I was going to do something else with the frog because I think he is super cutie patootie, but we took it for the team and I'm going to be using it for this project. And so I kind of had a hard time trying to figure out what to do with this, but I have this plastic garden mix jar, so I'm going to use that for this project too. Now I'm going to use my Dremel tool to cut off the handle of Mr. Froggy. And that's really the only part I'm going to use of him. I had high hopes for him, but he didn't work out, or I just ran out of time. But anyway, once I get my handle off of the frog, I'm going to take that Dremel and make a line so I can get even or flat surfaces, because I'm going to be attaching it to my plastic jar. So I'm just going to cut that down, and all of my tools, again, I'll have linked in the description box below or in the little shop icon. Again, I don't know how you get there, but if you really want to find something, it'll be in the description box below. So now I'm going to take my visor and I'm just going to cut off the elastic part in the back, and then I'm going to turn it upside down and glue it to the side of my jar. And I just used hot glue, and then at the ends I'm going to cut that off and make that come to a point and then glue those down on the back of my jar. So then I got some help from Michael J, and he got the caulking gun and started putting this caulk all over the entire piece. So after he applied it, then I was able to rub it in and get it all over the entire vase or jug or whatever this is. I'm not sure, watering can maybe, I don't know. And so it wasn't exactly as romantic as the pottery scene from Ghost, but it is always fun to have Michael J help me out. Now this caulking is actually gonna dry clear, so it's gonna look funny when it's all dried, but it's gonna do the same job because we're gonna paint over it after it's all nice and dry. So after it was completely dry, I'm going to take my mineral chalk paint and mix in a little bit of white and go over all of those pretty nooks and crannies and just kind of distress it. And you can't see on film very well, but there's so much textury goodness. You can see it in the reveal. I'll try and get it closer for you. But also when you put on that chalk paint really thick, it makes those really pretty cracks throughout, and it just looks like some kind of piece of pottery. So I already had this perky bow that I had made for another project, the same way that we made the other bows, but I love this color combination from these Dollar Tree ribbons. So I'm showing you which ones I've used here. And I attached this one with a nylon zip tie. So I'm going to be using this and attaching it to the handle of our watering can. But to do that, I'm going to take another zip tie and feed it through the one that's going around to keep our bow together. And I'll pull that through, and that's what we'll attach it to the handle with. And then I'm going to fill this with some pretty Dollar Tree flowers and a couple of others that I had gotten from Mother's Day, these little tulips that you'll see in a minute. And then it's done. And this became one of my favorites out of all of these. I just think it's so pretty. And I don't think you would ever be able to tell, unless you watched me make it, that it was made from a sun visor and a plastic jar. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So now I'm going to be using our baseball plaque, and I was going to do an LA Dodgers wreath, but I went a different way because I was kind of into the yellow scheme. So I took a mini wreath form from the Dollar Tree and these really pretty scripture stickers. And then I'm also going to take some yellow ribbon in different widths. And these first two, I think, are from, I'm not sure where they're from. You guys might recognize the labels. But this one is from Dollar Tree, the little yellow and white gingham. And so I'm going to cut my strips down at about 11 or 12 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to be wrapping my wreath form with these strips of ribbon. So all I'm going to do is fold my ribbon in half, and then I'll put the looped part on the outside and then feed my tails back in through it. So I found to make the pattern actually show from the front, both on the loop and on the little tails, is if you fold it over onto itself and then have it upside down where the pattern's away from you, and then feed it through, it's going to be on the top when you pull it through. You can see what I'm doing here. And then you're going to do that 70 times. I started alternating the different ribbons and spread out the big ones first, and then went to the next size and then the next size to fill in even more. And I also didn't have any more of this ribbon, so I just used what I had to get the fullness of the little wreath. And then I was still seeing a little bit of that green wreath form, and so I took some of this yellow curling ribbon, and I'm just going to kind of feed that in between just so that that kind of goes away. So now I'm going to paint the back of my plaque in Waverly chalk paint in white, and I'm going to do the top of it, which is the back, and the sides because that will peek out. And then once it's completely dry, I'm going to take my sticker and put it right in the middle. And this one says, "Let your light shine," and that's from Matthew 5:16. So now I'm going to take a piece of scrap foam board and make a circle from the other wreath. It comes in a pack of 2. And then I'm just going to cut that out. Now normally you wouldn't probably cut foam board with your scissors because it gives it a icky edge. But this is going to go on the back of our little wreath, so it didn't matter. So I'm just going to cut that out and then hot glue that right onto the back of our wreath. And now it's kind of looking a little bit like a monstrance. Anyway, I'm going to take some fairy lights that I got from Amazon. I'll have these linked below as well. And I took the empty spool from our yellow and white gingham ribbon, and I'm just going to wrap those lights right around that spool. And then I'm going to cut out a little hole. I'm going to have to make that a little bit longer, but I'm going to make a hole for the little battery pack, and then a hole in the middle for our wire to feed through and into the back. So you'll see why I'm doing this in a second. I'm going to stick that battery pack through the middle hole, and then I'm going to take my spool o lights and hot glue that down right in the center. And then I'm going to take my plaque and put it right on top of that. And then I'll stick my battery pack in the little square in the back, and then it's done. And here it is all finished, and I think this turned out so pretty. It was a lot of wrapping, which does get a little tedious, but take note of how to do that because we will be using that in another project. So I'm going to show this to you also at night, and it's so pretty. This would be perfect for a nursery if you need a little night light, and just to always remind us to be the light. I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. Now I'm going to be using the blue and yellow fabric that Christina got me. And with the lemons, I remember a couple of years ago, I've shown you this before, we decorated for a fundraiser for a school, and we used these colors and used the lemons. So I was really inspired by that. So I'm going to add some other fabrics from the Dollar Tree. I have this blue and white gingham, and then, or buffalo check, whatever you want to call it, and then the pretty yellow and white polka dots. And I'm just going to cut those down and make those into strips. These are about 2.5 inches wide. I just eyeballed it. It's 3 squares wide for the buffalo check one. And so I'm just going to cut those down, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we did on our wreath, but this time we're going to do it on a jar lid. So I took a little mason jar lid that I had in my stash, and you can see it's very dusty and has been stowed away for quite a while. And I'm just going to pop that off. I'm not going to use the center. I thought I was, but I decided not to. And then I'm also going to do the strips with my fabric. And so now we have the 3 different patterns of fabric, and my blue and white one was a little bit shorter than the other 2, but that's okay because I like it being the different lengths, you know what I mean? And I didn't dovetail the edges of these or the ends of these. I just left those flat like they were. And I'm just going to alternate those patterns and go all the way around my jar lid ring. So now I'm going to take this Dollar Tree board. This is one of the long ones, and it looks a little bit like shiplap. I'm going to use that for our backboard. And first I'm going to take one of these Amazon roses, and you guys have seen me use this before. This is from a party, and I have 70 of these. So anytime I can use it, I'm going to kind of deplete that inventory. But then I'm going to take my sunglasses, and I really am trying to add more than one item to each of these projects, but that was a little tough. But in this case, I decided I was going to take off the arms of the sunglasses, and I just used some wire cutters to do that. And then I painted them white. Now they have the little circles in the middle, and so I was going to put like lemons in there. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I decided instead to just cover that up with some Easy Patch. And again, I'll have all of this linked in the description box below. And so I just used one of my squeegees to get that in there and cover up those circles, and then added a little texture to my butterfly. Well, and they're already butterflies, so we're just gonna enhance this butterfly and add him to this piece. So then I took a piece of that blue and white buffalo check fabric, and I'm just gonna cut it into a little body bigger than we needed, but the fold is at the top so that when I take my wire, I'm gonna put that into the center, and it's gonna have the fabric on both sides. And then I took some white beads at the top, and I'm just gonna feed those on. I did like a medium-sized one and then a smaller one, so that could be like his head. And then the antennas, you know, we're gonna curly cue the ends of those to make it look like a sweet butterfly. And then I took my sunglasses and just fed that right in between, and I'll glue that so that it's all snug as a bug in a rug. And then at the bottom, I'll eventually put a knot at the bottom there and then cut off the excess. So now I'm just going to start gluing everything onto my board, and I'm using a piece of nautical rope to become the stem. It already had a knot at the bottom, so I just left that. And then I'll attach my butterfly. And then before I glue my rope all the way down, I'm going to take some heat transfer vinyl, and I used my Cricut Explore Air, and I'm going to cut out Hello Summer. And I'll have the font linked in the description box below because I can't remember it right now. And then I'm just going to put that on mirrored so that it comes out backwards, and then pull off the excess vinyl. And then I'm going to put it onto my sign, and then I'm going to use my mini iron to get that onto my board. And then I'll glue the rest of it down. Now before I show you the final reveal, I'm going to use these s'mores sticks, and I'm going to take a couple of these candles from the Dollar Tree. These are citronella candles, and I had them in mind for something else, but we're going to use it for this. I'm going to take that extra fabric that I've already cut, because I cut way too many, and then I took some Dollar Tree lemons, and we're going to make a couple of topiaries with this. So first I'm going to poke my sticks into that wax, and because it's nice and soft but still it will hold it in place, it goes in perfectly, and so it works out perfectly for this project. And then once I get my sticks in there, I'm going to take my wire cutters or my ugly, shears or something, tin snips, I'm not sure what these are called, but I'm going to cut off the metal down to the size that I need. And you see these are extending ones, so you can make it as tall or as short as you want it to be. And then I'm going to take my lemons and my big fat nail and my holy wood and poke a hole all the way through my lemons. They're styrofoam, so it's easy to do that. And to get it to go all the way through, I used my hammer. And then I'm just getting that styrofoam out of there. And you want to make sure that the holes are a little bit bigger than what you need them to be, so that it doesn't push down the little sticks. And then for the top one, you're only going to go in, 3/4 of the way through the lemon, so that the top doesn't have a hole in it and it covers up the icky end of the stick. And then I took that fabric and I'm just going to tie one of each pattern in between my lemons, and then I'm going to cut those down to the length that I want. And then at the very bottom, to cover up where we poked in the sticks, I'm going to make those a little bit longer and dovetail the ends of those, so that becomes our little bow. So now to pretty up those galvanized pots, I'm going to take one of these transferware decals from the Dollar Tree, and I just took one of the medallions and I'm going to cut that in half and place that at the bottom of my pot. And then on the other one, just to make it even cutier patootier, I used the different pattern on that second pot just to give it some pretty interest. And then to go along the bottom, you can just cut the little snips at the bottom of your decal so that it can roll around and stick onto that pot. And then to cover up the little bit of wax that's showing at the bottom, I just took these little lemon slices and popped it right at the bottom for some more cuteness. And again, I have 70-11 lemons and these lemon slices. I always get the extras from our parties, which there were so many. And I also had my kitchen and living room decorated in the 2000s in lemons and white and black toile. So I never throw anything away because it's not hoarding if you use it. But I love how these turned out, and you can see it goes so well together. I hope you guys like this too. So every time I do the mystery box, there's always at least one item that really throws me for a loop. So this was that item, and all of these were pretty tough, but this one really gave me a run for my money. So I decided to take some Quikrete, which is just concrete that you would use for patching cracks and seams. I'm gonna take that and put it into a little plastic cup and add some water. And then I took some Pam cooking spray to spray inside of my little mold. Now I did not know if this was gonna work, and this was my very last project. I was still working on this yesterday. So it was going to be a make or break, and I didn't know if I was gonna have to throw in the towel or what, but I'm gonna put that concrete inside of my mold and then wait for that to dry. I'm gonna make 4 of these, so I did this 2 times, and in between I'm gonna, pounce it on the bottom so that it gets out all the bubbles and is nice and flat. And then I set them outside, and thank goodness it was pretty warm here in California, so they dried overnight, and then I popped those out, and so now these are going to become little legs. And you can see my second set wasn't all the way dry, but that's okay. I had to move on. And so I'm going to take some Waverly varnish. This is clear and it's matte. Well, supposedly it's matte. I don't think they know what matte really means, but we're going to brush that on with a super soft brush and do all of the sides kind of just to seal that in, because this is dirt. And so even though it's, you know, dried to a point, it's still very dirty. So I'm going to seal that all in so it doesn't get crusty or flake off or anything. So now I'm going to take this Dollar Tree thankful sign. I've been wanting to use this one, but I never have. I needed the size of the board, but I didn't want to ruin the thankful. So I took my time, and you can use a heat gun to get the glue a little bit looser. And then I just used my Cricut spatula to pull that off. I am definitely going to be using this on something at some point in the future. So I'm going to set that aside. And then I had a scrap piece of wood out in the garage. I'm going to measure that down to make 2 sides. We're just going to be making a really rustic looking box. So I'm going to take this out to my miter saw and cut that down. Again, you guys know I don't like to measure anything. There are times when you have to, but I did this while Michael J was gone so that he didn't see that I wasn't measuring anything and I was just eyeballing it. So I'm going to make 2 long sides and then 2 short sides. And I noticed on one of the pieces there was a cross that Michael J, he was testing some kind of tool. I don't know what kind of tool it was, but I thought I would just leave that on here. And I'm going to put it on the outside so it's going to show, because I just, you know, I love crosses. Anyway, I'm going to take my brad nailer and put those all together, and then I'm going to take my thankful sign, and I'm putting the ugly part at the bottom so you're not going to see that, and using my brad nailer again, I'm going to attach that to the bottom of my box. So now that my box is all together, I'm going to take my Waverly antique wax and get that all stained. Now this wood, it kind of took the stain, or it's not even stained, but you know, the wax, a little bit darker than I had originally thought, but it ends up looking even better than I imagined in my brain, because this kind of came to me in the middle of the night of how I was going to do this. So I can't wait to show you guys what it looks like. And I think this one became my favorite of all. I don't know, you guys tell me which one is your favorite when we're done here. So I'm going to take my ink chalk paint and I'm going to paint one side of it. I didn't even measure. It's not half. It's like, it's just a little under half. And I painted also the top. I just put a little piece of masking tape there to make that line. It's not going to show, but I'm going to take these little pokey things for the cake pops. Somebody gifted these to me, so I was able to use that here. Now there's one good side that's been, you know, laser cut, so I'm going to use that for the top because that's what will mostly show. And then I just took some glue and started placing those onto my black paint, and so it's level at the top. Now I thought this would give it a kind of a reeded look, and it does. It's so pretty. I think this is so pretty. So this part really didn't take me that long, and again, I could have used spacers to make it exactly perfect, but we're not about perfection here. So once I got all of those down, I took my white paint pen and I'm going to write "Come all you weary," and I'm just doing some messy cursive writing, and I'll go back and make those lines a little darker. And then I put the scripture Matthew 11:28 in the skinnier pen at the bottom. Matthew's getting a lot of coverage today. But the significance of this, I think what was in my brain was that the reading, or those little poles that I put in over on the left, kind of signifies a jail or a prison. And then when you come out of that, it's the "Come all you weary." And now I can't get that song out of my brain, but also, as I remembered later when I was staging this, behind it all is the power of the cross. And on the other side of our box is that accidental cross. So I thought that was really neat. And then finally, we're going to add our legs. I used some permanent adhesive and some hot glue just to keep it in place while it was drying. And then while it's still wet, I turned it upside down so that I could make sure that it was level on your countertop. And here it is, all finished, and I am in love with this so much. I am so excited that it came out this way. I was also really excited because this was the hardest item that I had in my box, and it came out and turned out to be my favorite. I hope you guys enjoyed these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it, so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Don't forget to go to the next video on this playlist and see what they come up with. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!